Guys, welcome to another episode. And this episode is a really interesting episode for me, especially because Lorenzo is going to be driving the show. But what's exciting for me is that it's actually based on another episode that we have done. And we're going to include a link on the top right corner. So you can actually access the episode. And that episode was about this idea of active participation. And just to give you a quick summary, the basic idea of active participation, the basic philosophical take on active participation is that when Lorenzo goes to a product page, and when I go to a product page, and then when you go to that exact same product page on your phone, and then someone else goes to that same product page triggered through an email promotion to that exact same page, we are all shown the exact same description. And that assumes that there is a perfect description for all buyers, all buyer types. And we believe that this is fundamentally wrong. And there are perfect descriptions for different types of buyers. The way Lorenzo behaves is very different from how I behave. So that's the concept of active participation. What Lorenzo has done, which I think is quite interesting, he's actually one of the first people that I know, and maybe the only people that I know, who is absolutely locked into this idea. Like he just absolutely loves and deeply understands active participation, maybe even better than I can. And so he was working on a brand and he kind of thought of how he can use active participation. And he just pinged me on LinkedIn and made a video. And he said, this is what I'm thinking about. And I was like, dude, don't show me anything. Like, let's just package this for our audience. Let's record a show. Let's present it together. And I will have some insights and I'll share them. If I don't have insights, I won't share them. So that is what we're going to discuss today. So my friend, are you ready to share your insights?
Absolutely. I feel like here with this methodology that you completely invented from scratch, I feel like you're the professor and I'm the student, and I'm about to show you what my results of what I learned from you look like. So I kind of feel under pressure here, Rishi.
Don't feel any pressure, because I have a feeling that you understand this principle better than I do. So I'm excited to see what you have.
The way I call this active participation opportunity is actually use active participation for better positioning versus competitors. And before I actually show you guys what I mean with this idea, I want to say two things. First thing I want to say is that I didn't do any research around this brand because the purpose of this episode is not about understanding qualitative research data and then applying the learning from a qualitative data into a product page. The goal of this episode is to show you an application of active participation with a famous brand like Kylie Jenner.
Yeah, and I should add something over here also, is that I feel not only am I excited about the fact that you're going to talk about active participation, the thing that I'm even more excited about is that you have bypassed user research for this episode. And this is what I live for. So this is going to be super exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we come up with.
Cool. The second thing I want to say is actually a disclaimer, which is active participation is 100% a framework. And this is just an example. So please, like every framework, use it for your own goals and for your own purposes. Do not copy what I'm about to show you today, because again, active participation can be applied for anything on a product page, but also on other pages. This is why Rishi invented it, right?
Yep, that's right. That's right. Yeah. I didn't think about it in those fancy terms, but yeah, that's basically the idea.
All right. So let's talk about this idea. So first of all, here we have Control, which is the product page of one of the bestsellers of Kyle's Cosmetics, Kylie Jenner, super famous influencer, billionaire, and then celebrity. So as you can see here, we have the classic kind of like structure with the images on the left and title, reviews, product, quantity selector, call to action, and it's like just a super short product description. So here's my variation of the based on active participation. It's actually a multi-step variation. So the first step what I do here is, and again, I'm not a designer, so I hope that, you guys, there's no designer in in the audience. Otherwise, they're probably like, oh my God, what's going on with Lorenzo? This is so horrible. It is, but that's not the purpose of what we're doing. So what I did was I removed the short description below the call to action and the two social media icons, which are so freaking distracting. Like, I wonder how many people are clicking on them. And then I asked this question: do you currently use any lipstick similar to this one? And then I put the name of the lipstick and I'm talking about. And then there's two call to actions, yes and no.
Do you mind if I pause here for a second? Because there's some context that I want to just add over here, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Two things to keep in mind. Everything that he's doing, there is lots and lots of logic behind it. So first of all, the placement of the question is a very curious placement. Why did he pick this placement? Why not lower on the page? And now I have no idea what his reasoning was, but I can tell you from my perspective, the add to cart is almost like the most high intensity object on this page. So you want to, if it's a black hole, you want to kind of put all your important content around that black hole. That's number one. The other thing that he's done, again, I have no idea what's going through Lorenzo's mind, but what's really interesting is that he could have shown this question below the product description, but he chose, even because the description is short, but he actually chose to remove the description. Now, what that means is that it is virtually impossible for you to buy the product, like without actually, like you have no path but to actually interact with this question, or at least to notice this question. Please proceed.
Yeah, and there's the third reason on why I also asked that question, because my assumption, again, without having done research, my assumption is that a lot of people that arrive on this page, probably it's very likely that they already use a lipstick.
And that's 100% correct. Yeah. I didn't, you're exactly right. I didn't even consider that part. I was talking about just the placement of the.
Unless you're maybe like, let's say 10 years old, you're a Kylie Jenner fan and you get on the site. I'm like, oh my God, I've never used a lipstick before. I'm going to buy hers for the first time. The next visual is step 2. As soon as the user clicks on yes, there's another lipstick that I currently use. There's this other question, the next question that pops in that says, what brand is it? And I came up with these 4 brands where completely, I made them up. I don't know if users are actually, they own these brands. So Madeline New York, L'Oreal Paris, Revlon, and NARS Cosmetics. And then there's one more option that I put, which is none of these brands, please specify. And I'm not doing a good job at showcasing from a UI perspective, but people are supposed to like actually fill out this field if they're not using any of these brands. And obviously I'm capturing that data from both a selector perspective of all the options, but also if they just put like none of these brands, I'm actually capturing what brand they actually use. And then the user would click on next. The next visual is last question, pinky promise. I wanted to put a little bit of a personal touch here.
Love it.
Which of these product attributes do you care the most when shopping for lipsticks? And again, I totally like made them up. I'm not obviously a buyer of lipstick. I just thought, oh, what could it be, something that somebody care about when it comes to lipstick. And I put ingredients, the color, how long it lasts on my lips, and how it feels on my lips. And then I have other, which again, maybe I didn't come up with some attributes that I knew mattered to the customer. So I left one field open for the customer to tell me if I'm missing out on an attribute. Didn't put an attribute here that matters to the customer.
Let me just pause you here as well again, and just again remind you about the genius of this, because there's a lot of buyer psychology stuff happening here. Obviously, Lorenzo is a researcher, so he really cares about this other box where he's collecting data. But I am a persuasion architect and I care about persuading the buyer. So the thing is that the user comes to the page, and they have different levels of awareness, and they might actually focus on they might not be focused on the ingredients or the color. they might actually come to this page saying, oh, I just want to get something that lasts a long time. But one of the attributes of Bare Mat, Kylie's brand, might be the fact that they have incredible colors or the fact that they have these amazing ingredients, which the user typically is not aware of. Now, what you've done here is you've actually focused the user on these elements. And most people, even though they came here looking for something that lasts long, can't ignore ingredients or color. So many people will actually select those things. And now you've suddenly primed them to pay attention to those things. And it turns out that as a marketer, I'm asking those questions because those are the attributes on which I'm actually the best in the marketplace. So anyway, I don't know if this was his thought process, but I think it works for that reason.
Well, for me, it was like, okay, what are the product attributes that matter to people?
Yep.
In the decision-making process. And as you said, sometimes like, oh, I haven't even thought about attribute X. I do care about it, right?
Yeah.
So there's also sort of like education here.
That's exactly
like,
right.
Oh, you should care about how long it feels on your lips, because maybe it's something that you have never considered before when it comes to like, or maybe last time you bought the lipstick was like 5 years ago, right? And now you don't remember your decision-making process when it comes to selecting lipsticks.
Exactly right. And if it's kind of like an analogy of writing an article about hungry children in Africa. And most people would, if they just stumble on the article, our brain hasn't calibrated to actually pay attention to that thing. But if you start the article by saying, how much do you care about hungry children? If I've selected yes, first of all, I had to slow down to process that. And I've now selected yes. I'm now conditioned to actually I'm now more sensitive to that topic, which means there's a higher probability I'll fully read that article.
Cool. So quick recap here. I'm collecting names of competitors here. And then the next visual, I'm collecting names of actually product attributes that customers care about, right? So now once the user selects one or more of this, she clicks on reveal, okay? And there's a particular reason why I use that word, and Rishi can talk about it later on. And then we have step 4. And step 4, what we do is I actually use a little bit of a copy, which is not my strength, it's Rishi's strength. But I say, thank you for answering these quick questions, babe, which again, I'm trying to like...
Conversational.
Yeah, exactly. And then I say, now let me give you 3 reasons why Kylie's cosmetics ingredients are better than Maybelline New York ones, right?
And I want to add something here again. These micro copy elements make a difference. So you notice he says, let me give you. He could have said, let us give you. And I think let me give you is more effective because it feels like a one-to-one conversation. So these are very small things, but they really do add up and make a difference.
Yeah, it could have even been like that it's Kylie that is giving the
exactly
the name, right? Now, also a couple of things about this copy I use here. And again, copy is not my strength, but I just want to make sure I explain correctly. So when I say here ingredients, this thing is dynamic based on what the user has selected in the previous step. And the same here for the brand, Maybelline New York. So if I had selected, how long it lasts on my lips, and I had selected, what's another brand I put here? Revlon, right? The copy would have been dynamic and would have been different. Also, it would have been different if I've selected multiple brands or multiple product attributes, right?
Do you mind if I add one commentary real quick?
Go. This is your baby.
So the thing is, if you look at the most successful salespeople in the world, the reason why some people, good salespeople have incredible memories. They know the name of their customers. They remember what they're talking about so they can reflect, back to them. This is a classic sales technique. The difference between a top salesperson and an average salesperson is this attribute. It's not knowledge about the product necessarily. What Lorenzo is doing and what active participation is doing is basically making all of your salespeople equally talented, because it's giving us, it's collecting that if everyone is becoming that, is having an infinite memory. The other thing I want to add over here as well, just think about this. You walk into a car dealership and you are looking to buy a Rolls Royce, which is the kind of car that I'm going to buy. And the salesperson says, like, what features of the car do you care about? And I talk about the fact that, I need something that's super quiet. If the next 20 minutes of the sales presentation are all about the engineering that Rolls Royce went into creating a super quiet, do you think I would have not responded more to that than if they would have talked about the fact that it's a sexy car and it looks really cool and of course I would. So this is the ultimate cheat. We're asking in a very subtle way to the user, what do you care about? And then we are personalizing the sales pitch to only talk about the thing that they said that they cared about. I can't imagine anything converting except for if there was a ransomware software that said, if you don't buy this lipstick, we will. That's the only other thing I can think of that would convert at a better rate.
Some anonymous hacker out there. And then I would put reason 1, 2, and 3, which the way I would go about the different reasons. I'll explain in a second what I would do in order to, actually, I will explain at the end how I come up with these reasons. Any thought about this before I introduce an iteration of this idea?
No, I love it. I just love it.
Cool. Now I also came up with another iteration, which is written testimonial based type of iteration. So let me show you what that one looks like. So the first few screens are absolutely the same. So
you're so sneaky, Lorenzo. So sneaky.
So first talking about asking about if that they already own a lipstick or not. And then second, asking about the brand, and then third about the attribute. Now, instead of using the screen where I give them 3 reasons for buying that product and why it's better than at the ingredient level, actually at the attribute level, it's better than competition, I'm actually using testimonials. So somebody else to speak about that ingredient, right? The difference between this product, Kylie's cosmetics products, and the competition they have selected, right? So I completely made up this type of testimonial. So they're completely fake. I use a little bit of kind of like a Amazon research in order to understand a little bit more about their potential language. So I want to read them out loud, if you don't mind, Rishi.
Go for it.
So the first one says, I love how Kylie's cosmetics products make my lips feel. I noticed that they have a bigger concentration of my vitamin E compared to Maybelline New York. This explains why my lips feel moisturized all the times.
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I don't think anyone watching this video should continue watching at this point, because they should just stop and they have all the answers they need for the next 4 years of experimentation. Please proceed.
And then I just used like an AI image, kind of like a software to create that photo, but because I didn't know what to use as a testimonial picture. But obviously, you're gonna put your own customer's photo as a testimonial. The second one I use is, I had previously tried Maybelline New York lipstick, and unfortunately, my lips were dry all the time. Since I bought Kylie Cosmetics, I've never had to put chapstick on anymore, which implies, by the way, that every time she used to put Maybelline New York lipstick, she had to use chapstick right after because her lips were too dry. Must be because the vitamin E they put in. This is my new favorite lipstick.
I love it.
The third one, Maybelline New York lipstick contains, Maybelline New York's lipstick contain polyethylene, I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Polyethylene.
Yeah, which is a very toxic ingredient to humans. Kylie Cosmetics uses natural ingredients, right? And obviously here I made them up, but when you actually start collecting reviews about your product, you can actually start asking questions about, have you ever tried any other similar product in the past? Yes, no. And then the second question, what do you think about the difference between X and Y brand about this product attribute? So again, this is like testimonial that I've collected in the reviews process about my product. So I'm not suggesting here, I just want to make sure that it's 100% clear that I'm not suggesting people to come up with fake testimonials.
No, but wait a minute. I think there's something that's worth discussing over here. First of all, Lorenzo, I feel you've picked the wrong opportunity, because what you've decided to focus on, I know you focus on a lot of things, but one of the areas you really focus on is reviews mining. I actually feel that reviews are fundamentally broken, and what we really need to focus on is reviews collection. I think if reviews mining is $50 billion opportunity, reviews collection is $1 trillion opportunity. Because what you've done here is the way reviews are collected is basically like, it's almost like someone standing in a street and giving out flyers and saying, hey, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And what we're looking at review as almost like account-based marketing approach to sales, right? So the way to do it first is actually to start off with that mechanism through the active participation thing, where we're identifying the attributes on which our brand is unique and the attributes on which we want to market ourselves. And then we start collecting reviews around those attributes. So, so like a lot of people will watch this show and say, well, we don't have these reviews. Well, you don't have these reviews because you're sending a generic review request email. You have to do something. This show can't save you from doing certain things. You have to break your automated review request email. For job number one, break that damn email. You don't have to come up with 5,000 questions. You come up with 5 questions. That's still better than sending an email that says, what do you think about this product? This is the reason why people respond by it's okay or the shipping was fine, is because you're asking them lame questions. Ask them questions based on the attributes similar to what we're talking about. And I just think that's just going to, it's just going to change everything. And Lorenzo, one review, I really like the second review because I know exactly what you're doing there. But there is one other review that I would add, and I'm curious to know if you like this idea. I would create in that review request email, I would create an automated email where I'm asking people for people who, who were skeptical about Kylie, the brand. So I want a review that basically says, I know that Kylie is a celebrity, and therefore I was like, I basically thought this is going to be a crap product, but it was damn good, because a lot of people are going to be in that mindset. I want to connect with them. So
of course I agree. This is genius. This is because also what you're doing here with that testimonial, the user is reading the testimonial and is saying, oh yeah, I am the same skeptic about the same thing, right? It's the mirroring approach that we always talk about. It's crazy.
I think every marketer needs to read at least 5 books on door-to-door selling, or basically selling, because I don't draw a distinction between marketing and sales. It's just sales at scale.
100%. And this is why active participation is so powerful, because if you think about the classic direct response copywriter, it was a one-to-many sales, right? The classic product page is to one-to-many sales. But this approach brings from one-to-many to one-to-one. So now the conversion rate of one-to-one, based on something that you told me you care about.
Exactly.
Very, very different than one-to-many. Yeah, here I just explained a few things on why I kind of like came up with those testimonials. The first one focuses on ingredients comparison and the results of the 2 products, the previous brand and the current one. The second one focusing on the before and after story, which is very powerful. And then finally, the third one was more focusing on around the natural versus toxic ingredients. Now, it's let's say that I got hired by Kylie Cosmetics to execute this. I want to show people a step-by-step on how I would go about executing it, right? Because I think it's important. But before I go ahead and do that, I want to ask you, Rishi, what type of iteration would you have come up with based on what I showed you today?
Like a future iteration or a prior iteration?
No, whatever you prefer.
So I'll talk about a future iteration actually, because I think this is where I want to go actually. This is my future, and I've been thinking about this for 10 years. I've never had the balls to do it, but I really want to do it. I think this is the future of e-commerce. So what I would do is Lorenzo talks a lot about analytics. So obviously he would never set up this experiment without tracking all of the behavior. What I would do is I would study the most I would look at two things: the most popular path. So of all the channels that we have, in these questions, the most popular path and the highest converting path. And I would try to figure out, those are two data points that I care about: traffic and conversions. Once I identify, if I can find something that is high traffic and high dollar value, I would pick that path. So let's say that path is someone saying that they care about how long it lasts and they want to compare against L'Oreal New York, whatever. I'm just making this example. Let's say that path is the most popular one. What I would do then is, if that's the revenue driver, if that's the one that's driving, let's say 500,000 in revenue a month as a path, I would act, and I know that copy, and I've tested it with copy like Lorenzo did. Copy is very great because copy is malleable. So I can adjust it, I can change the words. But there is something that's more important than copy in terms of persuasion, which is video. But the problem with video is that it's expensive to produce and you can't make edits to it. In fact, even for this show, Lorenzo spends a couple of hours every time we edit a show to edit it. It's hard to do editing. What I would do is, let's say that someone were to say how long it lasts is the criteria I care about, and I'm shifting from L'Oreal New York or whatever that brand is. I would actually make a video, a sales presentation, a beautiful woman, and she's like, here I have a brand from L'Oreal, and she puts it on whatever that thing is. I would convert it into a video because I'm that would be my next iteration. So anyway,
you don't even need to create that video. Maybe there's an influencer video on TikTok or on YouTube or whatever that already does that. Now let's talk about the step-by-step that I want to walk you through if I were to get hired by Kylie Cosmetics to execute on this idea. So first of all, I would run a post-purchase survey, but also non-site polls to understand what are the most popular competitors during the consideration process, both from a switching standpoint, but also like in the trade-off process. I'm trying to figure out if X or Y products is better for me. So I would collect that. And then I would also want to understand what are the product attributes that people care about. And it could be like level 1, level 2, level 3, because maybe like, everybody cares about the level 1, which I'm just making them up. Maybe like the ingredients and the color of the lipstick. And then the level 2 would be like what the design of the lipstick packaging looks like, right? Then you can actually augment these two user research methodologies, customer surveys and on-site poll with additional one, like reviews mining, one-to-one interviews, social media mining, blah, 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 blah. It's really, really up to you and how much time you have. Then the step 2, I would actually come up with all the different options, meaning all the competitor brands and the product attributes based on the data that I've collected in the customer reviews and in the polls. So now I have, 50% of people said Sephora or Maybelline New York. 30% said Revlon. And so now I have a prioritization of competitors that I want to showcase in that active participation part. And I would do the same for product attributes. The next step is I would actually hire a direct response copywriter, Rishi, for example, to write the sales pitch for each option. Because this is what the bread and butter of a direct response copywriter is. Then the next step 4, I would run a test, an A/B test, and then I would analyze the results that I got from the A/B test, looking at the level of each option and each path, kind of what Rishi was talking about it earlier, at the product attributes and the competitor brand to see what are the most common attributes, what are the most common brands that have been selected, and what the conversion rate of each option is. And then I would actually iterate on the results, right? So for example, one way to iterate is come up with a different pitch based on each options the user has selected. And let's say I put here an example of iteration, right? Let's say that 90% of people say that ingredients is what matters to them in the decision-making process. Now the question is, in my sales pitch, how can I double, triple, 10x down on the concept of ingredients in order to make the customer really, really understand how my ingredients are 100x superior than whatever the competitors they're switching from.
I absolutely love it. Thank you for putting this, actually this step. I know, I'm not a step person, but I know a lot of our listeners really want us to kind of give them more instructions. I think this is really good. I know it took many, many hours of work to put this together. I hope everyone can appreciate it. I really, really think this is incredible. I'm really blown away by what you've done. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I have, like, the more I was working on this, the more ideas I was coming up with in terms of, like, what are the other questions that you could be asking? What are the other data you could be collecting? What are the other section of the website that you can place the active participation? Even, like, imagine using active participation for product images. You tell me what product images you want to see, and I'll show you based on that selection.
That's exactly right. You can actually also, guys, this is another thing I would say, is that we've never spoken about this, but you can actually use active participation to understand the purchase time horizon of the buyer. So you can actually ask, like, are you here to research or to buy today? And if someone says they're here to research, you can use a clever technique to put them in an email sequence. Now, you've already collected data about the fact that they care about the matte, the color, and the competitors. So your drip campaign is now personalized for those attributes. I mean, it's limitless what you can do once you've captured this fundamental data.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say is that Rish and I spend really hundreds of hours every month. And I know this, going down rabbit holes of understanding what original stuff, other e-coms are doing from a copy perspective, from UX perspective, from, you name it, right? And I've not, honestly, I can speak for myself. I don't know about you, Rishi.
I can read your mind. I've also never seen an example like these kind of things online. It doesn't exist. And this is actually my big fear is actually sometimes, this is one of the questions prospective clients ask me. They'll say, Rishi, I've never seen an example like this. So obviously it doesn't work. Please don't watch this show and say we've not seen an example like this or it doesn't work. It doesn't work because people don't have the courage to try these things. The next Amazon is going to be a company that does those experiments. There's no other way. You cannot out Amazon by playing the pricing game.
But so the reason why this works, and you spoke about this last time when you were explaining the origin of active participation. The reason why this works is because what you're doing here with active participation is you're mirroring the offline experience where it's a sales assistant that is driving you towards the right product that fits to your need based on what you told him matters to him.
Yeah.
So this is why it works. It's done online with the machine, with the computer, but it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. And I should add something else over here. This is very important. Like with anything in marketing, every idea has a shelf life. And I want to express this point a little more. Right now, because the landscape does not have any good use of active participation, they might have things like, I don't want to save 20% on the coupon, which is not really how we look at active participation. But the point is that because this does not exist at all, and Lorenzo and I we spent hundreds of hours looking for these examples. They don't exist. Simply, they don't exist. The thing is that the brands that start using this right now will actually have the biggest lift on conversion rates. Now, once everyone is using it, it will actually lose effectiveness, because for the consumer, it's like, oh, this is just the norm. I mean, like having a checkout mechanism that allows you to enter your email address and have your credit card, everything pre-populated, was a revolutionary idea when Amazon did it. But it doesn't increase my likelihood of buying from a website. Of course, I will now not even remotely buy on a website where I have to enter everything again. But the fact that you have a one-click checkout does not necessarily radically improve my probability of buying anymore, because now it's become the norm. Active participation will also be the same way. Once marketers figure out that this works like crazy, they'll all copy each other and everyone will use it. And I think the opportunity is over the next 5 years to really, really make money from this.
I know you and I have both some crazy ideas and other application on active participation. So we probably do another episode in the future with other ideas that I think, could totally make sense to test. But again, I want to go back to my disclaimer. This is not like, we're not telling you guys to say, okay, now I have to do the same exact thing when it comes to active participation, because maybe let's say you're selling baby bottles, right? This is the first baby you just had, so you're not switching from one product to another one. Exactly. So now it doesn't make sense to ask that question, right? Exactly. Maybe it makes sense to ask another type of question. But again, this is just a framework. You don't have to follow the example that we just gave you step by step. It's just a way of showing things on a website, on a product page in particular.
Yeah, I love it. Let's wrap this episode up. I think this has been extremely valuable. Anyone who is interested in this idea further, we will include links in the article. But we want to do more episodes on this topic, because I mean, I know for a fact that not only are there no e-commerce brands that are using this, I don't think there's any marketing expert in the world that has ever talked about this topic. So if your idea, and the reason we created this YouTube channel was not to just put together best practices, we wanted to actually put together ideas that don't exist. I mean, that's the whole the only reason why we're doing this is because we are looking to leapfrog ahead of every other marketer. And we want to help other people from our tribe that care about those things to kind of have those same benefits. This is going to be a golden era for e-commerce the next 10 years. It doesn't matter if there's a recession. It doesn't matter if whatever, nothing is going to change it. This phenomena is going to continue growing, and we want you guys to benefit from it.
All right. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any other idea on how to use active participation, please comment in the section below. We'll answer within like usually 12 hours. So happy to get some feedback there.
Ciao.
Ciao.